It's time with S2 Cognition. I am your host, Jonny Gomes, two-time World Series champ, and I will be joined by Scott Wylie and Brandon Ally, the founders. Today, we will be breaking down sports and other viral videos. Stick around for the last one. I promise it's a banger. Let's get started. All right, Scott and Brandon, let's get down and dirty right here. We're going to start in the NBA. We're going to go ahead and roll this clip, and I'll tell you what I see. I see a lot of change of direction. I see change of hands. I see a lot going on, but I'm just so curious to see how you guys see this play and the breakdown that you can offer us that we might not be accustomed to just by watching SportsCenter.
So from my perspective, I see a lot of vision here. You've got to be able to broaden your attention. So in the S2 evaluation, we measure that through a task called tracking capacity, which is how you keep track of multiple moving objects across your entire visual field. It's really impressive ability, which also lays the fundamental principle under timing, right? He's got to have a bit of coincident timing here, knowing when he's got to release the ball, when he has to make certain movements based on the defenders collapsing. And the other thing I see here is his ability to stay focused on the rim despite having all of these hands in his face and bodies collapsing. We call that distraction control, measured on the S2 evaluation.
Yeah, that's the one that jumped in my mind. I mean, you've got distractions come in all forms, and we know distractions don't just interfere with your concentration. They make your physical execution more variable. And, you know, he's got bodies bumping, and there's physical contact, bodies bumping, hands in the face, unbelievable focus. And the obvious one to me is we measure a process called improvisation. It's how quickly you can change gears when something unexpectedly changes in your environment. And you look at his ability to change directions and switch hands and get it off the glass. Unbelievable skill at the quick cognitive improvisation.
Yeah, that's great stuff right there, guys. I mean, I just can't wait to get to some of these other clips. I mean, the NBA, it's a lot tougher than it looks right there, absolutely. All right, Brandon and Scott, let's take it to the ice. Now, from an athlete myself, done some cool things in my career, but once I get on ice, I am out. I mean, what has to happen just to be an NHL player, but let alone what you're going to see right here? I mean, talk about change of direction, hand-eye, from the hand to the stick to the puck, you're on skates. I mean, if you could just give us a little bit of what's going on here in a cognitive way, that would help me out and I think all the listeners.
Yeah, hockey, first off, is one of the most visually demanding sports there is. It just moves so fast across the ice. And one thing we've learned really cool that you see in this clip from the work we've done in the NHL is compared to all other professional athletes, professional hockey players just have an unreal ability to improvise and control their motor system. And what I'm seeing here is he is just constantly changing direction, changing based on what he sees, having to improvise at the last minute to make an adjustment to where the puck is and to where he's going to shoot this, and just has really exquisite control over his motor system.
Yeah, I mean, it is so unbelievable, the body control and the cognitive control you see here. I want to point out the goalie, though. Look how the goalie, one of the measures we capture is impulse control. And when he makes this hard move to the left and the goalie bites on that impulse, that's what sets up this really cool improvised reaction. And if you're low in impulse control, that just means you're just geared to go. And the slightest impulse, urge to react, you're more likely to bite on it. And so you can see, you know, this goalie may have great impulse control, but on this particular play, he absolutely bit on the movement to his right, to the scorer's left.
There's a lot going on right there. I mean, we're on the NBA court and then we're on the ice, and we got a couple more a couple more clips, and I'm going to need for you guys to break down for me. All this stuff is gold for us to learn. All right, Brandon and Scott, let's get on the diamond real quick. Let's get off the ice, off the court. Let's do America's pastime, a little baseball. Now, what we're going to watch here from Kevin Pillar is not something that you're going to see in every single Major League Baseball game. You're going to see some hits, some swing and misses, some strikeouts. But when you got the opportunity to go to a ball game and watch a dude climb the wall like Spider-Man, grab that glove over it and bring back a home run, I mean, this guy's running full speed into a wall and decides to climb it. Now, what is going on in this young man's head to think this is even a possibility and then to execute?
Yeah, the two main things for me, especially as a visual person, you have to really, your brain is doing these calculations of where something is going to land in space. So estimating the trajectory of the ball, where that ball will ultimately land, you have to run to that point, which is not an easy task. We've often heard, or we actually heard a coach call an outfielder one time Magellan, because he would run off course, back on course, off course, back on course. These guys that can get to a spot without having to readjust all the time. You look at him here, he's looking down. He's not even looking at the ball because he had this mental representation of where that ball was going to land in space. And then the other thing he's doing here, he's got to time. He's got to time the jump just perfectly. We call that coincident timing, something we measure in hitters. He had to time that jump just perfectly to when that ball was going to be in a place that he could actually catch that. That is quite remarkable. The brain making all of these calculations in less than a second is just, it's quite remarkable.
Yeah, you think about that. If he is even off by a degree or two in his judgment of where that ball is, when he puts his head down and scales the fence, I mean, he may be out of position. If he's off in his timing by a few tens of milliseconds, he's on his way down and misses the ball, or because he gets there too early or he's too late. This is an unbelievable, what we would call, to nerd out just for a second, spatial temporal processing skill. He has this incredible precision with the spatial aspects of where that ball is going to be, and the temporal is the timing. He puts those together. This is unbelievable and incredibly difficult. He makes it look easy.
Yeah, that's amazing right there, Scott. I love when you nerd out for us, too. That fires me up. I mean, this guy's catching a ball at 330 feet, right? So this ball started 330 feet away from him, and he's got to climb a 90-degree wall, jump up, elevate, and catch it. I mean, if Kevin Pillar is not a pitcher's best friend, I don't know where we're at. And guess what we're going to do now? We're going to go over to the X Games, all right? So which is different about the X Games, right, is there's not really a defense, right? There's not really a defense and offense. There's gold, silver, bronze, and broken legs, right? So the unique thing about this right here is, nor can I do this at all, but I think there's only a small percentage of people in the world that can just even attempt this, let alone go ahead and land it. Right? I think there's only a small amount of people that can even attempt this on dirt, in competition. Now, obviously spinning like that, what's that take, spinning like that on a bike in the air?
Yeah, I'll go ahead again and start from the visual side of things. There's a couple of things visually going on. So if you see here, it's kind of a blind landing. He does ultimately turn his head and look down at the ground to where he's going to land. So there are elements of just like on the last clip, this trajectory estimation. So estimating when I need to spin this bike around. But also you have to have the visual memory aspect of it. You take a snapshot of the landscape below you, and then he looks away. So you've got to remember sort of the spatial layout of things, where things are to predict where you're going to land. There's a lot of trajectory going on here as well. But Scott, something that you've done a lot in the lab, and Jonny hit on this at the beginning too, is what about risk, right? What do we think about taking risks here? Because this is not something, just as he pointed out, everybody's going to go out in the backyard. Everybody can go out in the backyard and attempt to catch a fly ball over the wall, or attempt to change directions on the basketball court. But to do something like this and put oneself in this kind of danger, think about the risk tendencies we've got going on here as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, every athlete understands that every decision, every moment carries with it some level of risk, right? Risk for a reward, a big opportunity, or risk for a failure, a consequence. And, sometimes you're just in your wheelhouse, you're in your groove, and so risks just are easy to take. And other times, think of a pitcher up on the mound, or, a cyclist here that doesn't have his A game. Boy, if you're not completely committed here, that always leads to a bad outcome. So risk, or your natural tendency towards risk. And some athletes tend to be, hey, give me the reward opportunity. That's all I need to know, and I'm going for it. And some athletes are a lot more play it safe. As the stakes elevate and the potential negative consequences, they're going to tend to prioritize that a little bit more than the potential for reward and play it safe. And you can be a great athlete with either disposition and either tendency, but it's good to know yourself. Now these guys probably take risks to another level. The other thing that strikes me about this is the rhythm. I mean, when you're going up and you're spinning like this, you have to have this internal mental metronome to keep that cadence, that tempo, that beat, because if you're off in your beat, in your tempo, bad things happen. As an aerialist like this, I mean, it's unbelievable. They're keeping tempo with their actions, much like a musician keeps tempo. Unbelievable.
Yeah, this is unique here. I mean, I don't think this is something that he's landing, every day in practice too. This is a pretty unique stunt, I guess, if you will. And the risk and the reward probably going to leave with gold. The risk is probably going to leave in an ambulance. So even having the opportunity, to attempt this, you gotta maybe have a screw loose upstairs and a couple tightened down as well. All right, Brandon and Scott, let's haul our way over to another clip. Yeah, I tell you what, Scott and Brandon, I mean, I think when you're running down, who's more athletic in this world, I think we do forget about this profession here and the drums. And I mean, you talk about a lot going on, and I mean, he's just having fun, but what he's doing is just absolutely elite. I mean, talk about chewing gum and walking can be tough at times for people. What this guy's pulling off, I mean, he's got all four limbs going, right? He's got all four limbs going. Tell me about the brain and what's going on and how you get your left arm and your right foot and your right arm and your left to work different, but at the same time.
You said it. He's got all four limbs going on at the same time at different tempos. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's hard enough to get all your extremities moving to one tempo. Walking is hard for some of us, but
yeah.
I mean, to be able to maintain tempo and sync them up and then, vary them again, each individual arm, that's an incredible superhuman metronome right here. This is all about rhythm. Certainly there's an element here where he has practiced and built these incredible, durable motor sequences. He doesn't even have to think probably about what some of his arms doing. So he reserves all his capacity to focus on the real nuance, extra things he's going to throw in. But his brain is just, it's an autopilot for a lot of these movements, but it is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a great point, Johnny. I mean, I can't dance, so having 4 limbs go to one tempo is remarkable. But this is on another level. And then Scott, sometimes these guys sing as well, right? So you've also got that component. Yeah. So they've got to be on autopilot some kind of way. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think with all these clips that we've seen, probably not going to get the opportunity, but I'd say 99% of people in this world just can't even attempt it. Right?
That's exactly right.
Like you can probably attempt to drive a ball, in golf. Like you can attempt a half-court shot. But these things that we watch, like there's not many people that can attempt to go up to a 10-foot hoop, switch hands twice and go, right? Go on the ice and, fake out, a world-class goalie. Get up in the air on a bike and spin, 40 degrees. And then this, right? I mean, this is pretty remarkable. So the clips that we have seen today, I mean, we probably can't take for granted because there's only a couple people on the planet that can even attempt to do these.
You're absolutely right, Johnny. I mean, I think that's what sums it up. What we've watched here, the best on the planet at what they do. They not only put regular Joes like us to shame from a cognitive standpoint, but even their peers in professional sports. These guys are at the top of their game and the way that they process, how quickly they process. We've talked about the time element and how accurately they process all of this information.
I mean, Johnny, that is one thing we have learned in the sports world is that our understanding of the extreme end of human capability and cognitive performance, we're seeing that stretched by these elite athletes. It is unbelievable. And all of these clips feature athletes that are truly at the extreme end of human cognitive performance.
Yeah, that's something cool, and that's something, we'll be looking forward to diving down more is, the cognitive side. I think just watching this as maybe an amateur fan you just see the athletic ability, right? You see the guy that can jump high, run fast. But how fast they take in the information from the opponent, how fast they take in, the ability, to spin, or how fast they take in the ability to their brain and be able to execute it to their limbs is, I think, something we're all excited to learn a little bit more about and break down. Brandon, Scott, learned a lot today, and I can't wait to keep this going. Going to get some more clips to get them in front of you and just break it down, right? Just break it down from a cognitive side, what's really going on. We see the athletic stuff, obviously, every night, but it's pretty cool watching you guys break down these clips.